question is to the Minister of Energy and Resources. Does he stand by his comments regarding electricity prices made a year ago where he said, "I'm promising to make every effort to slow the increase"?
Mr. Speaker.
The Hon Pansy Wong.
Yes, and the efforts made through the government's policies are working. Between the 9 long years of 1999 and 2008 under the Labour government, average residential electricity prices went up by a massive 72%. In the nearly 2 years since National came to office, prices have risen by 6%. And that's including the effect of the emission trading scheme. It is clear that Labour has no credibility questioning on power price increases.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Is the Minister aware that the average unpaid electricity bill has increased by $100 in the last year to $615? And how does that statistic support his statement that electricity is becoming more affordable for New Zealanders?
The Hon Pansy Wong.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I say, the power prices between the last 2 years increased by 6.6%, and between October 2009 and 2010, the increase was 4.4%, nowhere near the 72% in between those 9 long years of Labour government.
Point of order, the Honourable David Campbell.
Mr. Speaker, I imagine you can anticipate the point of order, and I've waited until the first supplementary response. Mr. Speaker, the primary question set down on notice asked the Minister a substantive question, and we got a reversal of Labour's record.
I hear what the member's on about. Ministers must actually listen to the question. I know the Minister is very keen to get her point across, but actually the question asked something quite different. If I recollect correctly, it was, is the Minister aware of a certain value or increase in the average value of unpaid electricity bills? And if so, went on to an expert. But at least the Minister might have indicated in answering whether she's even heard of that or aware of it in any shape or form. And to just repeat a point the Minister wants to make is certainly not what question time's about. I invite the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta to repeat her question to make sure the Minister did hear it. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the Minister aware that the average unpaid electricity bill has increased by $100 in the last year to $615? And how does that statistic support his statement that electricity is becoming more affordable for New Zealanders?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think power prices increase affordability, and whether individual pays the higher prices is not necessarily a correlation to that. Obviously, the power companies should be looking at enforcing the repayment. And the fact that the government is introducing tax cut from next month will certainly mean people are better off in cash in their pocket, and I hope they will pay unpaid bills.
Chris Ockenbold. Chris Ockenbold.
Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Energy and Resources, how will the government's tax package leave an average household better off?
Thank you.
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Minister of...
Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Speaker, I don't see how that can come within the terms of the primary question, and I don't think it is permissible, with respect, for the government to answer so broadly to a supplementary so as to bring anything within the ambit of a supplementary patsy.
Point of order.
I'll hear
yesterday,
I'll hear the Honourable Chris Finlayson.
There was a very precise question yesterday on the Crayford Farms, and you allowed the supplementaries to range well beyond the scope of that. I would suggest that this is an identical situation.
The Honourable Rodney Hyde on the point of order.
Look, I don't want to address that issue of the substance of the point of order, Mr. Speaker. That's for you. But my point would be this. A member shouldn't be able to stand up in this House and say he can't see something, and therefore it's outside standing orders. Actually, they have to explain.
No, order. I don't think that's particularly... I think the the point that the Honourable David Parker was making, as I understood his point of order, was raising a concern that ministers may, in answering a question, introduce such material as to allow another member from their party to then ask a favourable question based on the material included in a previous answer. That's what I understood to be the point being raised by the Honourable David Parker. And it's an interesting point because I would have to rule that the question was in order because of the way the Hon Pansy Wong answered the previous question. Should it become a problem, I will watch it and think about it. But I think, given that this is the first time that this has particularly been raised, I can't deprive the member from the right to ask a question based on an answer the minister had given. But I understand the point that the honourable member was making as point of order. I think it was a perfectly reasonable point of order. But given the situation today, I must invite the minister, I think, to answer the question. The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr. Speaker, the electricity industry bill that is going to receive its third reading have included measures that will certainly slow down the increases in power prices. Because first of all, it is in implementing recommendation made by the ministerial review of the electricity market conducted last year. It includes asset swaps between state-owned enterprise...
Point of order has been raised. Order. The Honourable David Parker.
The Speaker having ruled that the question was in order, the Minister hasn't addressed the question that came from her own member.
I'll hear Chris Ockenvold briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think there has been an element of confusion with the constant points of order on this. I'd be very happy to repeat the question, which was a spontaneous question in response to the Minister raising it in answer to her previous question.
Given the circumstances that have arisen, it did appear to me that the Minister might have been answering a different question. I do invite Chris Ockenvold to repeat his question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary question to the Minister of Energy and Resources. How will the government's tax package leave an average household better off?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
I see. Mr. Speaker, after the tax cut introduced from 1st of October next month, 73% of New Zealanders would only pay an average tax of 17.5%. Each household will be $25 better off per week, and that has to be good news.
Supplementary.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta. Order. I've called the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta. Order.
Does the Minister agree with Bay Corp Advantage CEO Jeff Harper that, quote, with ETS levies, GST rises, ongoing job losses and the fact that money is generally tight and recovery still feels a long way off, I'm afraid we're going to see a massive spike in the number of people who just won't be able to pay their bills. If not, why not?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr. Speaker, the ETS emission trading scheme introduced by National would estimate to increase power prices by $3. If we introduce the Labour one, it will double. It will double the increase. As I say, the next month when we have the tax cut introduced, people would have more cash on their hand, and the fact that we're introducing a bill, electricity industry bill that will increase competition, that is further good news for the consumers, because more competition will lead to the slowdown in the power prices.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Is the 12% electricity price rise that Gisborne households will incur from Genesis Energy this October the, quote, slower rate of increase, end of quote, that households should expect under his watch? The
Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr. Speaker, history is the better indication. The fact that in the last 2 years the price increases has constrained to 6.6%, and the fact that this electricity industry bill also increased the capability of much easier switching of consumers. And I think the intelligent New Zealanders, they would use this scheme to check and monitor their power prices increases.
Question number 8, Sue Kedgley.